Hi there, I'm Karen Owoc, and welcome to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everybody talking. We run our show just like a Toastmaster club meeting. We have guest speakers and an evaluator, and with me tonight is our own Toastmaster Time evaluator, Ian Griffin. Ian, give us a clue as to what we can expect to see tonight.
Well, thanks, Karen. Tonight we've got a nice study in contrasts. We've got one speaker. Our first speaker will be speaking from the Humorous Speech Manual, which is one of the advanced manuals that Toastmasters who've, quote, graduated from the Competent Communicators Manual tackle. Second speaker will be dealing with a project from that initial manual. So if you like to say we've got a more advanced and a Toastmaster who's coming up to speed, we'll see how they compare. The one thing they have in common, however, is they're both from the East Bay, from Union City and Vallejo, who've come over here to the peninsula to participate in tonight's Toastmaster Time television.
Well, it sounds like we're going to have another wonderful show, and it'll be great to work with you again, Ian. Our first guest is from the Union City Toastmasters Club in Union City, California. Please help me welcome Venu Subramaniam. Welcome, Venu.
Thank you, Karen.
Well, not only are you the member of this club, but I heard you're also the president of this club.
That's right.
So tell us how that all came about, how you ended up leading this whole organization.
Well, I joined this club about a little less than 2 years ago, and I wanted to basically get through the competent communications, and I did it in less than a year. And I had a lot of people to help me out there, and we have a lot of mentors in the Union City Club.
Yeah, that's a nice thing about
Toastmasters.
Right.
And of course, at the end of the year, there's nobody else perhaps to take this role, so I just said, why not? I'll be the president.
Well, good. So how did you end up just getting started in Toastmasters?
I have given a lot of presentations as part of my work. However, I've not done any formal training in public speaking, so I really wanted to do this Toastmaster for a very long time. But I kept postponing that. When I realized, you know what, enough is enough. I really need to go through this thing. I have a problem with a lot of my hesitations and ahs and ums and stuff. That helped me a lot with Toastmasters. So I just had to get through it and get to the willpower and do it.
Great. Now, you are speaking, you've been doing humorous speeches.
That's right.
So tell me a little bit about your experience competing in contests.
Well, the first time when I joined the club, there was a humorous speech contest that was coming up, and I just happened to have some material, so I said, why not? And I didn't expect to make a big deal out of it. I came to the club, and I did make through to the club, and I went to the area, and for some reason, fortunately, I went to the division level too. So that was good. It's a good motivation for me. So it is just, I would say, by fluke. And
tell us how you ended up in the contest.
It went off very well. I mean, there were about 5 competitors, and they went off. They had a very good speech, and I did realize I did very well, and I came second. I'm very proud of that.
Great.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, are you ready to give your speech?
Absolutely.
Okay,
yes,
well,
I am.
we're looking forward to it.
Thank you.
I'm going to tell our audience a little bit about manual speeches while you get set up. The Toastmasters program consists of a variety of speech manuals, and each manual consists of 5 to 10 speeches. And each speech has its own set of objectives. And back with me is Ian Griffin, who will go over Venu's speech and go over his objectives.
Yeah, Karen. Well, Venu is speaking from the Humorous Speech Manual. He's giving the 5th speech, which is titled, guess what, the Humorous Speech. What we'll be looking for in his speech is the usual, or the accepted Toastmasters' use of body language and voice to enhance the story, but also for exaggeration. He's encouraged to exaggerate. So we'll see how well he does in that and how entertaining it is.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this particular one.
Yeah.
I'd like to present our first speaker, Venu Subramaniam, with The Perfect Husband.
Let me begin with a story. Once upon a time, a perfect man and a perfect woman met. After a perfect courtship, they had a perfect wedding. Life after that was, of course, perfect. One snowy, stormy Christmas Eve, the perfect couple were driving their perfect car along a long, winding road when they saw someone on the side of the road in distress. Being a perfect couple, they stopped to help. There stood Santa Claus on the side of the road. with a big bundle of toys over his shoulder, seeking help. Not wanting to disappoint the children during Christmas Eve, the perfect couple loaded Santa Claus and his toys into their car and proceeded to help distribute the toys. Unfortunately, the driving conditions deteriorated, and the perfect couple and Santa Claus met with a big accident. Only one of them survived. You know who that is? The perfect woman. Everyone knows there's no such thing as Santa Claus or a perfect man. Perfect men are fictitious figures. So I wanted to find out, what does it take to be a near perfect man and a near perfect husband? So I walked into the fictional section of the local library, and I even spoke to some of my married friends. What does it take to be a near perfect husband? I realized that there are 3 basic rules to improving a relationship and to be a near perfect husband. Rule number 1, listen. Listen. My wife always says that I've never been listening. At least that's what I think she says. Yeah. Very often you hear a wife say, "My husband never listens to me," or "My husband never pays attention when I'm talking to him." Personally, I blame this on the Y chromosome. That's right. There is something in the Y chromosome that makes listening difficult. Women don't have this problem, you see. Perhaps it's not the men, it's the Y chromosome. I'm glad Toastmasters have helped me listen better to women. Whenever I have a disagreement or argument with my wife, I let her speak. Then I count the number of ahs and ums and so's and you knows during her speech. Not only do I get to listen better, but I don't argue back because I don't want to lose my count, you see. However, I need to control my urge to report on the number of ahs and ums at the end of the speech. That will be fatal. Rule number 2, communicate. Communication is a key to a strong marriage. When your wife says something, listen and pay attention. At least pretend. As a motivation, pretend she is talking about your favorite sport. After all, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. If there's one thing you can remember, remember the phrase, "Yes, dear, you're right." That helps for a smoother communication. Yes, dear, you're right. Unless, of course, the question is, do these clothes make me look fat? Use the phrase, "Yes, dear, you're right," frequently, but wisely. There are some researchers that say that while many men will happily rush into a burning building, risking their limbs and taking a bullet to save their girlfriend or wife, many of them would rather staple their tongue to a wall than switch off the television and have a deep and meaningful conversation with their spouses. Again, it's the Y chromosome, ladies and gentlemen. Third rule is remember. Remember. While it's very important to listen, it's more important to remember. When you remember, you get it right the next time. We men forget important things in life. We forget the woman's birthday, our anniversaries, and many other details. Heck, women even remember what you wore the first time you met her. The worse the man screws up, the better and longer the woman remembers. Why do men never remember? Why do women never forget? Scientists have attributed this to the following. Women have a higher blood circulation to that part of their brain that controls memory. That's right. Also, they have a higher concentration of the estrogen hormone. So that's the main reason why, what was I talking about? Excuse me. I forgot. Never mind. Let me close by saying this. My wife once said, when she was a teenager, she prayed to God that she get an intelligent, sensitive man for a husband, one who would listen to her and one who would communicate well with her. She prayed to God, but then she got me, which goes to show that even God himself did not listen.
Oh, that was that was funny.
That was funny, and you know, it's clear that Venu has absorbed, I think, many of the lessons of the humorous speech manual. I would have loved to have heard some of his previous ones, because this is the 5th in the manual. It was noticeable from the very beginning that he had, I would say, one of the clearest benefits or advantages he had was his sense of timing. And, you know, a couple of times, like especially, I think he had us all worried here in the studio when he apparently forgot his speech, because that's happened, you know, I'm sure, in Toastmaster time. But then you realize, wait a minute, he's talking about the blood circulation in the male not being well enough established. He did something very similar when he talked about listening to his wife. At least that's what I think she said.
Yeah.
So very well thought out speech. How did you? Well, here we are, men and women, talking about it. You know,
you see.
I sympathize totally.
Yeah, you have a whole different perspective on the content of that speech. I thought it was wonderful, and like you said, going back to the original manual, and because he was very organized, you know, made that list, you know, rule number 1, number 2, number 3, and I thought that was great.
Yeah, and I have to say the beginning, the way he used the perfect husband with the perfect wife, with the perfect wedding, the perfect, and he used that phrase, that repetition of perfect, setting up this wonderful story about Santa Claus, and if you believe the fiction of the perfect husband, you got to know that the wife is the only one who survived. Right. Very clever speech in and of itself. If he only had 30 seconds or a minute to give a talk, that alone has all the elements.
Well, thank you so much for your evaluation, Ian. Coming up next, you'll learn about who you really are. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease,
freedom requires leadership, and leadership requires oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
Welcome back to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everybody talking. Our next guest is from the Mare Island Toastmasters Club in Vallejo, California. Please help me welcome Edward Fish. Welcome, Edward.
Thank you for having me here.
Now, I understand you've been on a personal growth journey for the last decade. Can you tell us a little bit about how Toastmasters kind of wound up in this plan of yours?
Absolutely. The basis of my personal growth started over 10 years ago because I had no idea how to go and communicate to others. So I started going and taking classes, books, and courses, and I have had one of my mentors actually go and say, since you want to be a public speaker, you want to be in front of people, Toastmasters would be really great for you to do.
And then you wanted to be a public speaker. What is it that you really wanted to talk about?
Thank you for asking. Involved with my personal growth work, I've been studying in sensuality and sexuality, and my true passion is being an intimacy coach for older women, helping them get back in touch with their sensual and sexual sides so they can actually start to experience the intimacy and connection that they've been craving.
Oh, interesting. Now, how long have you been a Toastmaster?
I've been a Toastmaster for about 7 months at this point. And
then I understand you hold a leadership position.
Yes, I do. I kind of fell into the position since one of the people in my Toastmasters is the actual district governor, Paula. And she approached me after about a month in the club and said, hey, we're looking for a sergeant of arms for our monthly leadership conference. Would you be interested in actually helping out? And I said, sure, I'll give it a shot.
You know, I don't think a lot of people realize that there's this leadership track in Toastmasters. Have you held other positions of leadership?
No, this is my very first one. You know, going straight from, I'm in Toastmasters for the first time, I have no idea what's going on, to a month later of, hey, I'm surrounding myself with people coming from all over the district actually getting together.
Great. Well, are you ready to give your speech?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we look forward to it, and I'll give you a moment to get set up.
Thank you.
Back with me is Ian Griffin, our evaluator, who will evaluate Edward's speech and go over his objectives.
Yeah, thanks, Karen.
Welcome back.
Well, this is from the manual that everybody who joins Toastmasters gets, which is the Competent Communicators Manual. Edward will be giving us a speech number 6, which is on vocal variety. This is not just volume and pitch, but also the all-important pause. So we'll be looking for that kind of effects of vocal variety in this talk.
Great. Well, look forward to it, Ian. I'd like to present our next speaker, Edward Fish, with Who You Are and Are Not.
When Alice went to Wonderland, there's a part where she became very small at one point by going drinking from a bottle. She went down to the size of about an insect. Now, when she was down this low, she came across a big blue caterpillar who looked down at her from this giant brown mushroom and asked her the question that has shook men to their very core. Who are you? Now, tonight, I'm going to be talking about who people believe themselves to actually be and what actually defines what a person is. So who are you? A lot of people answer that question with what they go and do for a living. Now, could be a brave firefighter or a hilarious comedian giving a humorous speech. Or perhaps an elegant ballet dancer who loves the pirouette. Now, is what kind of work you do who you really are? Now, there are some people who work at the same exact job for 40 years, and research has shown that if they don't do anything after they retire, they quickly die within that first couple years. There are some people who get so identified with who they are being their work, that if they lose that job, they actually commit suicide over it. Now, what about those of us who actually work more than one job? Are we schizophrenics? Or perhaps just two-faced? Now, if you take away your job, does that change who you really are? No. So, who are you? There's a saying that clothes make the man. All right? If you wear a business suit, or if you wear just a simple pair of blue jeans, or if you like getting dressed up in that tight little mini skirt with a 6-inch blood red heels, people go and treat you differently based upon how you go and dress. There was one point in my life where I was unemployed looking for a job, flat broke, dressed up in a nice business suit, and I had what I call my money tie on, where it had literally $100 bills printed all up and down the tie. I was in the financial district of San Francisco. I got approached by 2 women who thought I was a successful businessman. They invited me out to lunch based on how I look. In the movie Iron Man, Tony Stark was going to ask a question, okay, so you're this big superhero in this giant suit. Who are you if we go and actually take away? And it's like, all right, you go and take the suit away? I'm still a playboy millionaire philanthropist. So if we were to actually go and take your clothes off, strip you completely naked, and would that actually change who you are? No, you would still be you. So once again, who are you? Now, how many of you people out there are fathers? How many of you are mothers? Or maybe you're even a proud grandparent. Now, it is who you are based on the kind of role that you go and play, like in your family. Now, maybe being a cherished son, devoted husband, loving father. Or maybe it's the athletic daughter or a happy homemaker housewife. You know, I married. I divorced. Did I become any more of who I am when I married? Did I lose part of who I am when I went through that divorce? Will I actually become more of who I am when I find a woman to actually have my children for me? No. So who is it that we really are? Most people live their lives according to others. You know, we have teachers, we have parents, we have our churches and communities going who we are, or at least who they think we should be. There's the television, there's media, there's magazines telling us how to dress, what to think, what size we should be. What if who it is that we really are is not what people have told us that we actually should be? Now, deep inside of you, at the very core of you, you have a set of values. And those internal values are who it is that you really are. Now, when you're living in alignment with these values, life is wonderful. You're happy, you're going through life like a duck swimming through water. When you're going against these internal values, life becomes hard, you're heavy, you're just dragging your feet. And it's kind of like you're being crushed by a tidal wave in life. So live according to your own internal values and do what truly makes you happy and fulfilled with your life.
Well, Ian, how did Edward do against his objectives?
Well, I would have to say very well, the very title of the speech, those 3 words, who are you, with the pause, the way he said it, that's an excellent example of vocal variety. A few more minutes into the speech, he then said, who are you? So he clipped those last 2 words together. If you think about it, a simple phrase like, who are you, he could have said, it would have probably said it under ridiculous, probably another 5 different ways. Who are you? Who are you? And he didn't use every one, but I think it just shows you 3 little words with the right vocal variety. He did an excellent job bringing emphasis to those during the speech.
And then how would you improve his speech?
Well, it's sort of what we talked about with the first speech, which was humorous speech is designed to be exaggerated. There's nothing to hold a Toastmaster back with this manual. If it says vocal variety, he could have actually amped up the variety a lot more. Physically, he did this because he crouched down at the beginning. He used gestures, pirouetted, I think, like a ballerina. Vocally, he could have gone a little further outside the envelope because in vocal variety, you can speak like this. You know, I mean, I would never do it with you. I just did it for a fact. But in that speech, you could have been very loud. And we've seen Toastmasters, I think, in clubs do this.
Yeah.
So lots more room to experiment and play with that.
Well, thank you.
He still did great.
Well, yes, he did.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, Ian.
Thank you.
We have to take a short break, so don't go away. We'll be right back.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease,
Freedom requires leadership, and leadership requires oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
Welcome back to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everybody talking. I'm back again with Ian Griffin, and we are just chatting about the highlights of the show. So what do you have to say?
Well, I mean, I love the fact that, you know, I live in the East Bay, you live in the East Bay. It seems like both of our speakers this month and last month came from the East Bay. Yeah, here we are on the peninsula. I'm sure there are Toastmasters here on the peninsula we can encourage to come down, but it just shows you that in the San Francisco Bay Area, such a variety of Toastmasters clubs out there. I believe one of our speakers goes to a club in the evening. I've always gone to lunchtime clubs. Variety of speaking manuals, variety of speakers, a variety of topics. It's what Toastmasters is all about, and we saw it tonight.
Exactly. And it's once you get through that basic manual, there's a lot for you to do and expand after that.
Huge range. And you also, I think, in one of your conversations mentioned the leadership track. And both of our speakers, even the last gentleman who's only been in Toastmasters a few months, has already taken on a leadership role, Sergeant at Arms, at a district level, I understand.
And I think that really helps him in his personal goal.
Oh,
and,
absolutely. I mean, they have, as we know, I think the clubs right now are going through the World Champion of Public Speaking eliminations. And there will be, you know, later this year in the summer at the national or international conference, a single Toastmaster world champion. Many other Toastmasters will have benefited from joining in the contests that some of our speakers have done. I've done, I believe you've done as well, at the club level. So it's an organization which really has, you know, the sky's the limit.
Yes, exactly, exactly. From the very beginnings to the very top.
Yeah, and we see this each time on the Toastmaster television show with two speakers. You can see the contrast, you can see the similarities. I'd encourage people to go to the website, I know you're going to mention it in a minute, and look at speeches. They've archived them now for many years. There must be more than 100 speakers. And pick and choose amongst them. You can also go to YouTube, of course. Many people post their speeches to YouTube.
It's a great way to learn, to be a good speaker, to use someone else as an example and kind of follow what they do. And
it certainly is. And also, as we all know, this is a little of an artificial environment. We're in a television studio. There's no live audience like there would be in a typical club meeting with a dozen members. It's another way people can challenge themselves. So again, I think it's a great opportunity. People in San Francisco, anywhere in District 57, come on down to Palo Alto.
Well, thank you so much for your insight and your suggestions. It was great to work with you again.
Same with you, Karen.
If you live in the Bay Area or plan to visit sometime soon and you'd like to come visit us here at Toastmaster Time, you can contact us through our website at toastmastertime.com. And if you'd like to check out some Toastmaster activities, you can go to our district website, which is d57tm.org. Now, there are Toastmasters clubs around the world. If you'd like to find one near you, you can go to our International Toastmasters Club website at toastmasters.org. Well, that's our show for tonight. I'd like to thank our guest speakers, Venu, Subramaniam, and Edward Fish, our guest evaluator, Ian Griffin, and our wonderful crew here at the Media Center in Palo Alto. From all of us here at Toastmaster Time, I'm Karen Owoc, inviting you to speak up and join Toastmasters.